minutes until showtime. 3 minutes until showtime. 2 minutes until showtime. 1 minute until showtime. Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
That's right. I forgot to turn on the mic here. So let's start again. I went ahead and I did. I said that it worked perfectly, and I had stopped or the audio that I was playing outside of the Blog Talk Radio audio synced up with exactly of the starting of the show. And of course, I then forgot to turn on the audio for the mic, and it's I was so in awe of myself for doing that right that I still managed to screw it up. And is it going to play?
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. So yeah, we're probably not going to be not taking any calls tonight. Not we're sitting here waiting for the I guess for President Biden to start speaking with his Soul of the Nation. The band was playing. We could have probably played the band if we wanted to. It looks like is the president coming out now? They just opened a door, so let's just go ahead and unmute it and see. I think I start playing Hail to the Chief. Bring out your dead. Monty Python. Bring out your dead. Yep, there's the Chief.
Please welcome the President of the United States and Dr. Jill Biden.
This is probably safe audio to hear on YouTube simply because of the fact that it's Hail to the Chief and it's being played by the one of our armed forces military bands or whatever. So let's go ahead and while we're waiting for let's open that up. Here's the president. Here and bring that up as well.
My fellow Americans, please, if you have a seat, take it. I speak to you tonight from sacred ground in America.
Yes,
Independence Hall
to have a
in
real
Philadelphia,
president.
Pennsylvania.
One with
This is
decorum
where
and
America
decency.
made its Declaration of Independence to the world more than 2 centuries ago with an idea unique among nations, that in America, we're all created equal. This is where the United States Constitution was written and debated. This is where we set in motion the most extraordinary experiment of self-government the world has ever known. With 3 simple words: we the people, we the people. These 2 documents and the ideas they embody, equality and democracy, are the rock upon which this nation is built. They're how we became the greatest nation on earth. They're why, for more than 2 centuries, America has been a beacon to the world. But as I stand here tonight, equality and democracy are under assault. We do ourselves no favor to pretend otherwise. So tonight, I've come to this place where it all began to speak as plainly as I can to the nation about the threats we face, about the power we have in our own hands to meet these threats, and about the incredible future that lies in front of us if only we choose it. We must never forget, we the people are the true heirs of the American experiment that began more than 2 centuries ago. We the people have burning inside of each of us the flame of liberty that was lit here at Independence Hall. A flame that lit our way through abolition, the Civil War, suffrage, the Great Depression, world wars, civil rights. That sacred flame still burns. Now in our time, as we build an America that is more prosperous, free, and just. That is the work of my presidency, a mission I believe in with my whole soul. But first, we must be honest with each other and with ourselves. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. Now, I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology. I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans. But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country. These are hard things, but I'm an American president, not a president of red America or blue America, but of all America. And I believe it's my duty to level with you, to tell the truth, no matter how difficult, no matter how painful. And here, in my view, is what is true. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people. They refuse to accept the results of a free election. And they're working right now, as I speak, in state after state, to give power to decide elections in America to partisans and cronies, empowering election deniers to undermine democracy itself. MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards to an America where there is no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to marry who you love. They promote authoritarian leaders and they fan the flames of political violence that are a threat to our personal rights, to the pursuit of justice, to the rule of law, to the very soul of this country. They look at the mob that stormed the United States Capitol on January 6th, brutally attacking law enforcement, not as insurrectionists who placed a dagger at the throat of our democracy, but they look at them as patriots. And they see their MAGA failure to stop a peaceful transfer of power after the 2020 election as preparation for the 2022 and 2024 elections. They tried everything last time to nullify the votes of 81 million people. This time, they're determined to succeed in thwarting the will of the people. That's why respected conservatives like Federal Circuit Court Judge Michael Luttig has called Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans, quote, a clear and present danger to our democracy. But while the threat to American democracy is real, I want to say as clearly as we can, we are not powerless in the face of these threats. We are not bystanders in this ongoing attack on democracy. There are far more Americans from every background and belief who reject the extreme MAGA ideology than those that accept it. And folks, it is within our power, it's in our hands, yours and mine, to stop the assault on American democracy. I believe America is at an inflection point, one of those moments that determine the shape of everything that's to come after. And now, America must choose to move forward or to move backwards, to build a future or obsess about the past, to be a nation of hope and unity and optimism, or a nation of fear, division, and of darkness. MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies. But together we can choose a different path. We can choose a better path forward to the future. A future of possibility, a future to build and dream and hope. And we're on that path moving ahead. I know this nation. I know you, the American people. I know your courage. I know your hearts. And I know our history. This is a nation that honors our Constitution. We do not reject it. This is a nation that believes in the rule of law. We do not repudiate it. This is a nation that respects free and fair elections. We honor the will of the people. We do not deny it. And this is a nation that rejects violence as a political tool. We do not encourage violence. We are still an America that believes in honesty and decency and respect for others. Patriotism, liberty, justice for all, hope, possibilities. We are still, at our core, a democracy. And yet, history tells us that blind loyalty to a single leader and a willingness to engage in political violence is fatal to democracy. For a long time, we've told ourselves that American democracy is guaranteed, but it's not. We have to defend it, protect it, stand up for it, each and every one of us. That's why tonight I'm asking our nation to come together, unite behind the single purpose of defending our democracy regardless of your ideology. We're all called by duty and conscience to confront extremists who put their own pursuit of power above all else. Democrats, independents, mainstream Republicans, we must be stronger, more determined, and more committed to saving American democracy than MAGA Republicans are to destroying American democracy. We, the people, will not let anyone or anything tear us apart. Today, there are dangers around us we cannot allow to prevail. We hear, you've heard it, more and more talk about violence as an acceptable political tool in this country. It's not. It can never be an acceptable tool. So I want to say this plain and simple. There is no place for political violence in America, period. None, ever. We saw law enforcement brutally attacked on January 6th. We've seen election officials, poll workers, many of them volunteers of both parties, subject to intimidation and death threats. And can you believe it? FBI agents, just doing their job as directed, facing threats to their own lives from their own fellow citizens. On top of that, there are public figures today, yesterday, and the day before predicting and all but calling for mass violence and rioting in the streets. This is inflammatory. It's dangerous. It's against the rule of law. And we, the people, must say, this is not who we are. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. They're incompatible. We can't allow violence to be normalized in this country. It's wrong. We each have to reject political violence with all the moral clarity and conviction this nation can muster. Now, we can't let the integrity of our elections be undermined, for that is a path to chaos. Look, I know politics can be fierce and mean and nasty in America. I get it. I believe in the give and take of politics, in disagreement and debate and dissent. We're a big, complicated country, but democracy endures only if we, the people, respect the guardrails of the republic. Only if we, the people, accept the results of free and fair elections. Only if we, the people, see politics not as total war, but mediation of our differences. Democracy cannot survive when one side believes there are only two outcomes to an election. Either they win or they were cheated. And that's where the MAGA Republicans are today. They don't understand what every patriotic American knows. You can't love your country only when you win. It's fundamental. American democracy only works only if we choose to respect the rule of law and the institutions that were set up in this chamber behind me. Only if we respect our legitimate political differences. I will not stand by and watch. I will not the will of the American people be overturned by wild conspiracy theories and baseless evidence-free claims of fraud. I will not stand by and watch elections in this country stolen by people who simply refuse to accept that they lost. I will not stand by and watch the most fundamental freedom in this country, the freedom to vote, and have your vote counted and be taken from you and the American people. Look, as your president, I will defend our democracy with every fiber of my being, and I'm asking every American to join me. Throughout our history, America's often made the greatest progress coming out of some of our darkest moments, like you're hearing that bullhorn. I believe we can and must do that again. And we are. MAGA Republicans look at America and see carnage and darkness and despair. They spread fear and lies. Lies told for profit and power. But I see a different America. An America with an unlimited future. An America that's about to take off. I hope you see it as well. Just look around. I believe we could lift America from the depths of COVID. So we passed the largest economic recovery package since Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and today America's economy is faster, stronger than any other advanced nation in the world. We have more to go. I believe we could build a better America. So we passed the biggest infrastructure investment since President Dwight D. Eisenhower, and we've now embarked on a decade of rebuilding the nation's roads, bridges, highways, ports, water systems, high-speed internet, railroads. I believe we could make America safer, so we passed the most significant gun safety law since President Clinton. I believe we could go from being the highest cost of prescriptions in the world to making prescription drugs and health care more affordable. So we passed the most significant health care reform since President Obama signed the Affordable Care Act. And I believe we could create a clean energy future and save the planet. So we passed the most important climate initiative ever, ever, ever. The cynics and the critics tell us nothing can get done, but they're wrong. There is not a single thing America cannot do, not a single thing beyond our capacity if we do it together. It's never easy, but we're proving that America, no matter how long the road, progress does come. Look, I know the last few years have been tough, but today, COVID no longer controls our lives. More Americans are working than ever. Businesses are growing. Our schools are open. Millions of Americans have been lifted out of poverty. Millions of veterans once exposed to toxic burn pits will now get what they deserve for their families and their compensation. American manufacturers come alive across the heartland, and the future will be made in America. No matter what the white supremacists and the extremists say, I made a bet on you, the American people, and that bet is paying off, proving that from darkness, the darkness of Charlottesville, of COVID, of gun violence, of insurrection, we can see the light. Light is now visible. Light that will guide us forward, not only in words, but in actions. Actions for you, for your children, for your grandchildren, for America. Even in this moment, with all the challenges we face, I give you my word as a Biden, I've never been more optimistic about America's future. Not because of me, but because of who you are. We're going to end cancer as we know it. Mark my words. We're going to create millions of new jobs in a clean energy economy. We're going to think big. We're going to make the 21st century another American century because the world needs us to. That's where we need to focus our energy. Not in the past, not on divisive culture wars, not on the politics of grievance, but on a future we can build together. The MAGA Republicans believe that for them to succeed, everyone else has to fail. They believe America is not like I believe about America. I believe America is big enough for all of us to succeed. And that is the nation we're building, a nation where no one is left behind. I ran for president because I believe we're in a battle for the soul of this nation. I still believe that to be true. I believe the soul is the breath, the life, and the essence of who we are. The soul is what makes us, us. The soul of America is defined by the sacred proposition that all are created equal in the image of God, that all are entitled to be treated with decency, dignity, and respect, that all deserve justice and a shot at lives of prosperity and consequence, and that democracy must be defended, for democracy makes all these things possible. Folks, and it's up to us. Democracy begins and will be preserved in we, the people's habits of the heart, in our character, optimism that is tested yet endures, courage that digs deep when we need it, empathy that fuels democracy, the willingness to see each other not as enemies but as fellow Americans. Look, our democracy isn't perfect. It always has been. Notwithstanding those folks you hear on the other side there, they're entitled to be outrageous. This is a democracy. But history and common sense good manners is nothing they've ever suffered from. But history and common sense tell us that opportunity, liberty, and justice for all are most likely to come to pass in a democracy. We have never fully realized the aspirations of our founding, but every generation has opened those doors a little bit wider to include more people who have been excluded before. My fellow Americans, America is an idea, the most powerful idea in the history of the world, and it beats in the hearts of the people of this country. It beats in all our hearts. It unites America. It is the American creed, the idea that America guarantees that everyone be treated with dignity. It gives hate no safe harbor. It installs in everyone the belief that no matter where you start in life, there's nothing you can't achieve. That's who we are. That's what we stand for. That's what we believe. And that's precisely what we're doing. Opening doors, creating possibilities, focusing on the future. And we're only just beginning. Our task is to make our nation free and fair, just and strong, noble, and whole. And this work is the work of democracy, the work of this generation. It is the work of our time, for all time. We can't afford to leave anyone on the sidelines. We need everyone to do their part. So speak up, speak out, get engaged, vote, vote, vote. And if we do our duty in 2022 and beyond, then ages still to come will say, we, all of us here, we kept the faith. We preserved democracy. We heeded our worst. We heeded not our worst instincts, but our better angels. We proved that for all its imperfections, America is still the beacon to the world, an ideal to be realized, a promise to be kept. There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred, nothing more American. That's our soul. That's who we truly are. And that's who we must always be. I have no doubt, none, that this is who we will be, and that we'll come together as a nation that will secure our democracy, that for the next 200 years, we'll have what we had the past 200 years, the greatest nation on the face of the earth. We just need to remember who we are. We are the United States of America, the United States of America. And may God protect our nation, and may God protect all those who stand watch over our democracy. God bless you all. Democracy. Thank you.
All right, here we go. That was Joe Biden's speech. I believe it was excellent. It was uniting for the majority of America, I think, not necessarily for those MAGA types. Oh, I missed what he said. Hold on. What did he say? Let's see. We'll hear it for a second. The microphone was turned off, so you couldn't hear what he said. Oh well. Wah wah. Anyway, so there you go. There was the speech. We can go over a few of the things that he said. I also might bring up the pre-buttal. I think I have time to play the pre-buttal before I have to go over to Twitch. So let's pop this open in this window as well and get ready to do the pre-buttal. Apparently it was all over the place, but Biden sounded really good, I thought. It would be very hard for the people who like to mock him as being, having problems with his cognitive abilities. It'd be very hard for people to criticize him. I'm sure they'll still try and find a way, but his very few stumbles that he had today were clearly simply because of his stutter. He said, equality and democracy under assault. We need to speak plainly about the threats. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent extremism, but not every Republican is a MAGA Republican. But he said that other Republicans that are intimidated by the MAGA Republicans. And see, here's my thing. I guess my difference there with the president is that I see no moral difference between somebody who believes in MAGA and pushes the MAGA ideas and somebody who is afraid of the MAGAs and doesn't have the courage to stand against it. I don't see any moral difference there, because if you allow it to happen, if you tacitly approve of what's going on with inaction, then you are basically endorsing it by default. Let's see. MAGA Republicans do not respect the rule of law or the will of the people. MAGA Republicans are taking America backwards. MAGA Republicans are a threat to the soul of the country. We are not powerless in the face of these threats. It's within our power and our hands to stop the assault on American democracy. He used the word repudiate right, unlike Sarah Palin. Blind loyalty to a single leader is fatal to democracy. Tonight, asking the nation to come together and unite behind a single purpose of defending democracy. MAGA Republicans want to destroy democracy. On January 6th, law enforcement was assaulted. Before then, poll workers were threatened and intimidated. Now FBI agents are being threatened by fellow citizens. We have public figures who are either predicting or calling for mass violence and riots if there is charges brought against former President Trump, and he says that's inflammatory, which obviously it is. We the people must say this is not who we are. He said we cannot be pro-insurrectionists and pro-America. That's a very strong statement, and I think it's one that's true, obviously. Democracy can't survive if one party says that either they win or they were cheated. You can't love your country only when you win. American democracy only works if we choose to respect the rule of law. Not to say he repeated his line that he says often, which is there's not a single thing that America cannot do if we all work together. Talked about some of the projects that he signed into law, the bills that he signed into law to increase manufacturing within the country. Hey, Kinky Streets, how's it going? The future is made in America. We are in a battle for the soul of the nation. He did mention the people who are shouting on the bullhorn, and that people outside are entitled to be outrageous, but it's just those that, I don't know if it was one guy or several people, but they just represent what's wrong with this country. Even though they have the right to be outrageous, they're entitled to be outrageous. It's just they lack decorum. It's just like the "you lie" guy from Barton when he interrupted Obama. But he did say, good zinger, good manners is nothing they've ever suffered from. America is an idea. It beats in the hearts of the people of the country. He says we need to vote, vote, vote. It is our duty in 2022 and beyond. Then ages beyond this will say that we kept the faith, observed democracy, and heeded not our worst instincts, but our better angels. America is a beacon to the world, a promise to be kept. I think it's one of his better speeches. I think it was good. Obviously, the MAGA Republicans aren't going to like it because he basically drew a line in the sand. Either you're a MAGA Republican or you support American ideals. And, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. So, but let's go ahead and let's reduce my window again. We're going to go ahead and bring up McCarthy. I think we have time to do this because I have about a half an hour before I was planning on being on Twitch. So we're going to hear his response. I might pause this one to make comments every now and then, depending on how ridiculous he gets. Hey, Real Bill P, thank you for joining. Let's see.
Well, thank you, Jim, and more importantly, thank you. It's great to be in Pennsylvania. We're going to win this race. And this isn't going to be the only race we win. Before I begin, I want to thank Donnie for hosting us today with what an unbelievable, incredible shop, and for all the employees of what it does. By the time this year is over, I will have visited almost 50 states. Met with people like you in coffee shops, diners, VFW halls, community centers, and like machine shops just here at Don's. Over the past month alone, I have traveled to more than 20 states and met with over 100 Republican candidates and members and thousands of their constituents. So tonight, I want to share with you what I heard from Americans across this country. What is clear to me and clear to you is that Washington and the White House aren't listening. They just don't get it. You have never been more worried, more alarmed by the...
I mean, we're listening. We're listening to what y'all are doing and how y'all are supporting a treasonous insurrectionist like Donald Trump and those who support him. We're listening to that pretty clearly. We also listened and understood when y'all went through and overturned Roe v. Wade with Dobbs v. Jackson, and that's fueling the fire of the people who are pissed the hell off about it. It's why, a Democrat won this congressional seat in Alaska.
Direction of our country. Yet they tell you everything is fine. You worry that your children...
Aaron, the children who dress them. I was thinking about making a mean comment about the children and how they're dressed. The guy on the left, the kid on the left looks like young Sheldon, honestly. But it's quite possible that the folks behind him there, especially in that little corner, they might not have many branches in their family tree, if you know what I'm saying.
Will have less opportunity than you did. Yet they tell you things are looking up. You fear that America is becoming poorer, less safe, less respected.
America becomes poorer under Republican leadership because Republicans believe the myth in trickle-down economics, which basically, you give money to rich people and then they keep it.
And less free by the day. Yet they tell you the border is safe and America is secure. The White House says inflation is transitory. Deficits don't matter. And the spike in crime is just a bump in the road. Yet you know that doesn't add up.
Maybe the spike in crime is because of all of the individual papers that Donald Trump took that he shouldn't have taken.
That's where we're different. I don't dismiss your fears. I share them. And I, along with every... not only does he share the fears, he stokes the fears and makes people feel about things that aren't ridiculous to fear. Republican running for Congress this year, share your unwavering conviction that we must change direction in Washington before it is too late. The American experiment and the good people who believe in it have not said their last word. The electric cord of liberty.
The American experiment, people who believe in it have not said their last word. Well, Joe Biden is one of those people who believes in it, and he hasn't said his last word, but he said lots of good words and basically said that people like y'all don't believe in the American experiment. So there you go, and I agree with him.
Still sparks in our hearts.
Yeah, Bill P says McCarthy makes my blood boil. He's a sniveling little puke bag. Yes, he is. He's ridiculous, and he's a coward. Because, on January 6th, I believe it was reported that he was like, who the F do you think you're talking to, when on the phone with Trump? And then he scurried down to Mar-a-Lago days later, and now he's his reek, so to speak.
The spirit of the Pilgrims, the Patriots, and the Pioneers still inspire our souls.
The Pilgrim, the Patriots, the Pioneers, and the Putzes that are the MAGA folks.
Our best days are ahead of us, not behind us. Our nation can flourish again. And under a new, historic Republican majority, it will. For the past 2 years have been a time of...
Hold up. He wants to restore an American democracy, so we don't have an American democracy now? That's just proof of what... we are saying is that these MAGA folks are white supremacists. They're people who don't believe that anything beyond their old white man power structure is American. This is why Biden says that these people hate this country. Let's listen to that again real quick, if I reminded enough.
Inspire our souls. Our best days are ahead of us, not behind us. Our nation can flourish again. And under a new, historic Republican majority, it will. For the past 2 years have been a time of trial for Americans everywhere. Never in modern times has an administration promised more and delivered less.
You forget the last 4 years prior to Biden there, McCarthy?
And they have no one to blame but themselves.
No, we have to blame conservatives who obstruct every single thing that is put up there, including Manchin, who for some reason decided to get behind the energy bill, but, it's conservatives who are blocking progress.
In the past 2 years, Joe Biden has launched an assault on the soul of America, on its people, on its laws, on its most sacred values. He has launched an assault on our democracy.
No, the assault on our democracy took place on January 6, 2021. And you were a victim of that assault on the democracy because they were coming in to get the people there. And at that time, you weren't ready to stand up against, or you looked like you might have been ready to stand up against Trump. Of course, you cowered away like a coward.
His policies have severely wounded America's soul. diminish
Real Bill P. That bunch behind McCarthy looks like their ivermectin. They took their ivermectin and got their first black light colonoscopy. You put the light in the body, and then you inject the disinfectant.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald.
America's spirit and betrayed America's trust. For the past 19 months, Democrats have had total control in Washington.
That's not true. The Republicans have been able to block many things, and they've had the Republican conservative majority of the extremist right wing, the activist conservative judges control the Supreme Court. If Democrats controlled the entirety of the government, including the Supreme Court, we wouldn't have seen Roe v. Wade be overturned with that horrible ruling written by Alito.
They control the House. They control the Senate.
Young Sheldon is trying to not say bazinga.
They control the White House. They have all the levers of power. So let me ask you this. How have they done?
They've done as good as they could do, despite, in spite of the Republican obstructionism.
Democrats control every committee in Congress, responsible for our nation's safety, our prosperity, our education, and our government oversight. They are in charge of every federal agency responsible for our law enforcement, for drug enforcement.
And for drug enforcement, they've been caught more fentanyl crossing than Trump ever did. And looks like law enforcement's doing well going after the criminals, especially President Trump.
For our homeland security, for our border security. They're responsible for our food supply, our energy supply, our public health, our public education.
I mean, they're responsible for some things about our energy supply, but there's nothing you could do unless you're going to take over the oil producers when the big oil is artificially restricting production from the agreement that Donald Trump made with Putin and OPEC.
Our federal spending, our federal borrowing, and even our foreign affairs.
I like foreign affairs. Sorry.
So let me ask you again. How have they done?
And I'll tell you again, as well as they can do because of the Republican obstructionism in the Senate.
Are you better off? What is 2
Yes, I am better off now than I was under Donald Trump.
years of one-party Democrat rule in Washington given us?
I have a good job, and I've done really well the last 19 months.
Now let me state the obvious. Our economy is now in a recession. Here are the facts.
The word recession doesn't make sense to the people behind you. They don't understand words beyond 2 syllables. They don't even know what a syllable is.
Fact. Our supply chains are collapsing. Our transportation system is completely dysfunctional. Air travel has never been more unpredictable. Fact. Families go to the grocery store to find empty shelves.
I've not once gone to the grocery store and found an empty shelf. Of course, I go to Costco most likely, and sometimes it's hit or miss what Costco has, but that's the case with Costco whenever you go. Even before the pandemic, it was like, oh, they want this thing that they had. No, they're not going to get it back for 3 months. Oh, well.
Necessities like baby formula have been impossible to find, which means many children can't get the nutrition that they need. This
is coming from the party that wanted to consider ketchup a vegetable.
You can find what you need at the store, it costs more, a lot more. Food prices are up more than 13%, the highest increase ever. We're told again and again by Washington that it's all temporary. The historic spending binge of Joe Biden and his Democrat Congress has brought
Democratic, not Democrat.
The greatest inflation crisis to this nation in generations. Democrats spent your money on wasteful projects, including millions on ski resorts and luxury hotels, and even spending $1 billion of hardworking taxpayer money on stimulus checks to violent criminals in prison.
Real Bill P, he voted correct. He voted against formula from Canada. They voted against the measures that they were trying to do to help get people formula and do other things, because they are more concerned with obstructing Biden than they are with helping American people.
Yes, and they even sent one to the Boston bomber.
Those Bill M, those poor kids. Well, we have to stand here and be silent because if we move, Paul said he's going to whoop us.
This has only driven inflation higher. Here's what it means to the American people. For senior citizens,
yeah, Egolf Twitler in the chat says inflation is a global problem. Yeah, and gas prices did not go as high here as they did in other places.
a lifetime of savings is being wiped out. Their 401ks are now 201ks. For our mid-career workers, wages are being ravaged. Young people cannot afford rent, not even to mention to buy. Mortgages are now...
Well, people can't afford to buy because people who, stock up and hoard properties for rental properties, Airbnbs, etc., artificially restrict the supply of housing, therefore making the price of housing for both rental and for purchasing higher, including banks who just hold on to properties and won't let them in the market because they want to keep prices high. That way they can have higher interest, higher loans, and gain more interest payments.
Out of reach. Families are barely able to make ends meet. Electricity and energy costs, they are consuming household budgets. Citizens are forced to make agonizing choices every single day just to pay the bills. More than 20 million American households, that's about 1 in every 6 families, have fallen behind.
1 in every 6? What?
On the utility bills. The amount they owe has doubled since the beginning of the pandemic, and winter is coming.
The White Walkers are coming from the north. Winter is coming. We must find Jon Snow, the King of the North. Sorry.
Fact, gas prices are 60% higher than what Joe Biden took office.
Because we were coming out of a pandemic, so you had an increase, a spike in demand, which was not offset by a increase in production that Donald Trump had negotiated with Putin and OPEC, making the global supply artificially lower. So when you artificially restrict supply and then demand spikes, gasoline prices go through the roof. That's how supply and demand works. You would think that the House Minority Leader would understand how supply and demand works, even if the people behind him, stand there and drool.
He inherited energy independence from President Trump, but is now traveling.
We were a net exporter of gasoline during the Obama administration, but let's go on.
Traveling the world, begging foreign countries for energy to power our country.
Or, the domestic producers could have increased their supply. I'm wondering if he was going to bring up Keystone next, which wouldn't affect our domestic supply at all.
We have God-given American-made energy we need right here, right now. But Joe Biden...
Right now! And tomorrow! Right now! I don't know if Hal sings that one or not. I don't sing it very well.
But Joe Biden has locked it away and raised the price of gas. Fact.
No, it's the artificial reduction in supply that has done that.
Fact. Real income. What you take home after inflation and taxes is lower now than when Joe Biden took office. Let me ask
unless you got a new job since then.
Everyone this question. How many of you can afford to give up 1 month of your income? I bet not many. But if you've had a constant salary for the past year...
I'm sure you can, Kevin.
You've had more than 1 month of your income taken away.
Yeah, Jeff, I think that white guy in the shirt did, or the white guy in the white shirt with the pants pulled up to his nipples almost, I believe he did just sneak in there. Maybe he's there to keep control of the kids right there.
Millions of Americans are falling backwards into poverty, not making progress. And the hardship does not end there. Because of the extreme soft-on-crime policies of Joe Biden,
you can't complain about being soft on crime and then refuse to do anything about the insurrectionists. Sorry, brah.
Defund police Democrat Party,
the Republicans literally just started saying to defund the FBI.
Communities haven't been this dangerous in decades. You want the facts? Last year was the deadliest year in America in 20 years. That includes attacks on our police officers. And this year is no better.
I thought he said a tax on our police officers instead of attacks on the police officers. Like, what? We didn't charge taxes on police officers. What are you talking about? Oh, a tax. Who attacked police officers again? Oh, the insurrectionists on January 6th. That's who.
Democrat prosecutors and Democrat politicians have declared war on public safety. At our southern border, our safety isn't just at risk. Our national security has been compromised.
No, because when Trump was president, he only went after the low-hanging fruit, the easy targets, the people who weren't really a threat, so that he could drive his numbers up. Biden's actually looking at the hard problems, the drug, the fentanyl importation, the criminals who are coming across the border, not the people seeking asylum.
Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and the Democrat Congress have created...
Yeah, Bill Pede, McCarthy was complaining today because Biden stopped tons of drugs from getting in the country. It's like the Republican Party did that as well. I'm like, what? Do y'all have, like, fentanyl production chains that Biden is interfering with? Is that how y'all are going to plan to fund your 2022 and beyond elections, is by selling fentanyl? And you can't do it now because Biden, has prevented y'all from getting the fentanyl? I mean, if I was Hal, I would have a big satire thing in front of my screen. Obviously, I'm just joking.
Created the worst illegal immigration crisis in all the history of our country. They eliminated every successful policy put in place during the Trump administration and adopted a policy of releasing illegal immigrants by the millions into the United States. Our border is now wide open. Last fiscal year under
It's not, but okay.
Biden, there were nearly 1.5 million apprehensions in our southern border. Fact, that is a record. This year, Biden has already broken last year's record. Almost 2 million illegal immigrants were apprehended. That includes 66...
Wait. Let's rewind that a second again. Let's listen to that again.
Our border is now wide open. Last fiscal year under Biden, there were nearly 1.5 million apprehensions in our southern border. Fact, that is a record. This year...
So Biden set records by apprehending people at the border, and you're trying to say that the border is not secure? If Biden set a record apprehending people, that means he's catching more people crossing the border than Donald Trump did. Let's just play it one more time just to see how ridiculous McCarthy is.
United States. Our border is now wide open. Last fiscal year under Biden, there were nearly 1.5 million apprehensions in our southern border. Fact, that is a record. This year, Biden has already broken last year's record. Almost 2 million illegal immigrants were apprehended.
So he's stopping even more people, and it's not even the end of the year. We're in September or September. Subscribe to Liberal Dan Radio here on YouTube. It's September. Help me get to 1,000 people, 1,000 subs by the end of the month.
That includes 66 individuals on the terrorist watch list.
Good. He caught them. It's probably many more terrorists than Donald Trump caught, because Donald Trump is more worried about, like, the dream people, the dreamers, and like people who were here in violation of our border policy who like fought for our military, and he wouldn't let them stay because even though they fought for the country. He's catching terrorists. He's doing right. He's doing a good job. I mean, this is a campaign advertisement for Democrats right now. I'm Joe McCarthy, and I approve this message. Democrats are catching more terrorists at the border than Donald Trump ever did.
You have to ask this question. Why are those on a terrorist watch list coming to America? And what do they have planned for us?
I mean, they were probably coming to America but during the Trump administration too, but Trump is too distracted trying to go after the low-hanging fruit instead of actually protecting the country.
But it doesn't include the over 500,000 gotaways, or the countless more unknown gotaways slipping in completely undetected as our border agents are pulled off the line. Fact.
If they went undetected, how do you know they're there? I mean, how do you know that they're there? How do you know that they got away if there's nobody there to see them get away? Eh?
The number of illegal immigrants who've crossed our border under Biden easily exceeds the population of dozens of states. Think about what this means for our healthcare system.
Y'all don't care about our healthcare system. Shut up.
Our hospital system.
Y'all don't care about our hospital system. Shut up.
Our education system.
Y'all don't care about our education system. Shut up.
And think about what a wide open border had meant for the lives of younger Americans. Criminal cartels.
If he's going to start complaining about COVID and how some of those people may have COVID, and start complaining that people who are crossing our border are bringing COVID into the country, I'm going to laugh.
Cartels are now in full control of our southern border. They decide who and what comes into our country. And that means record amounts of drugs flooding into our cities and towns.
Biden has captured and caught and stopped record amounts of drugs coming into the country. Why are they so stupid? They are so bad at this. That's the frustrating thing. The Republicans are so bad at this. Like, this is a terrible argument. They're so bad at this, but they still win because they cheat. I mean, but how do they manage to get away with the cheating as much as they do? Because they're so inept at everything else. I guess stupid people in large groups.
Every American city is now a border city.
No, that's ridiculous. And the only reason that maybe it's because Abbott's sending stuff up to people to D.C. and New York City.
Fentanyl is now
here goes fentanyl.
Now the leading cause of death for Americans between the ages of 18 and 45.
Well, it's a good thing that Biden is catching record numbers of fentanyl, because guess what? If he didn't do it, it would be much worse, wouldn't it?
Fact. Biden's open border policies are killing Americans. Fentanyl is poisoning and killing 300 Americans every single day.
And y'all won't help us implement any sort of drug programs to get people off of drugs.
That is equivalent to a full airplane crash every single day in our country.
I mean, it's humorous how Americans represent numbers. Like 3 football fields worth of things, because we don't want to use the metric system, or it's equal to the size of a city, or an airplane crash a day. Keeps the doctor away.
Why is the White House not treating this like the crisis it is? Speaking of younger Americans, our children are suffering as a result of Democrat school shutdowns.
They'd be suffering more if we hadn't shut things down, because the pandemic, the virus would have spread more quickly, and we would have seen more kids die, we would have seen more parents die, we would have seen lots more deaths.
In fact, according to a national test results just released today, the pandemic has now erased 20 years of progress in reading and math proficiency.
Except in this area right here, who don't know how to do it anyway. That guy in the white shirt's probably like, I don't know how to read. I don't even know what this says.
It is no wonder only 28% of Americans have trust in our public schools. And in a giant payoff to our education universities that charge more but deliver less value, Biden unilaterally bailed out high-paid, white-collar workers.
No, he did not. The high-paid white-collar workers who likely have, like lawyers, who come out of college with an average of $160,000 of student debt, are only losing 10 to 20% of that debt. So they're keeping the majority of that debt. They're only losing a little bit. So no, he's not paying off their loans. And that assumes that the average lawyer out of law school might have, like, you know, some $90,000 to $100,000 of income, but the average attorney's salary is like $148,000, $149,000. So those people don't qualify for the $10,000 to $20,000 anyway. So either they're getting the loans, they're only getting like a small, like less than 10% of the loans forgiven, or they're not getting them all forgiven at all because they make too much money.
By transferring $1 trillion in student loan, that debt is now being paid by either people who've paid off their loans or never borrowed to begin with.
85% or 75% of the loans, I believe, I might have this little bit off, but 75% of the loans that are going to be forgiven are for people making $75,000 or $85,000 a year or less. So, but yeah, you can miss me with that, Kevin.
We are losing our safety, our prosperity, and our freedom. The Biden administration's heavy-handed COVID policies, including firing our military heroes and our first responders, have undermined our freedoms and destroyed public trust.
Because they want people who serve in the military to not be a threat to the other people by being plague spreaders.
And what do we have to show for it? More Americans died of COVID under President Biden than under President Trump.
What was he about to say? Because Biden inherited the problem and fixed it. So, and you also had the situation of the fact that Donald Trump basically did not lead, and because he didn't lead, it caused a lot of people to reject. Had Donald Trump from the beginning of the pandemic said something like, "It is your patriotic duty to wear a mask and to get the vaccine. It is your patriotic duty to socially distance and protect your fellow Americans," the MAGA types would have been like, "Sir, yes, sir," and like they would have had no problem with it, and we would have ended this problem. But because he didn't, you have a bunch of people who, for a year or less than a year, I guess, under Trump, were, "Oh, this is a hoax. This is a Democrat hoax," even though Trump didn't say the virus was a Democratic hoax. He said that the Democratic response was a hoax, but everybody knew how his poorly educated supporters would take that comment. They would take that comment as the virus is a hoax, and not because, again, they're poorly educated. They can't ascertain the differences or the subtleties between what he said and what they heard. So these people were not willing to do what they needed to do once Biden became president, like take the vaccine, and if they had a spread in their community, to stay the frick home, because Donald Trump did not lead. Donald Trump said to Woodward that he downplayed the threat of COVID-19 to the detriment of our Donald Trump. More people died from Donald Trump because of Donald Trump's inaction and his wanting to sugarcoat everything, to the point where we all have diabetes because he sugarcoated everything.
Our pain and suffering at home have been matched by humiliation abroad.
Considering the fact that Donald Trump was Putin's little bitch, no. Donald Trump ceded power to Putin in the Middle East. Donald Trump weakened NATO. Putin didn't have to do anything. Why? Because when Trump was president, because Putin was allowed to expand his sphere of influence. But once Biden became president, Putin had to do something to expand his sphere of influence, which meant attacking Ukraine. Furthermore, Biden was handcuffed by what Donald Trump had already set in motion before Biden took office when it comes to Afghanistan. I'm sure I've already hit both of Kevin McCarthy's points without ever having heard what he said.
1 year ago, our country watched in horror as Biden's botched withdrawal in Afghanistan left 13 American service members dead and landed a lasting blow to America's prestige that will haunt us for generations to come.
I think he's being a little melodramatic there.
Without question, Biden's decision led to the greatest foreign policy embarrassment in American history.
Trump's the one that drew down the troops even more than they had to make it a situation that was non-tenable or untenable.
Genocidal China grows stronger, bolder, and more aggressive by the day. Iran is closer to a nuclear missile than ever before. The world is more dangerous, more unstable, and more chaotic.
Because that's what Donald Trump left us with.
Peace and security have been replaced by hostility and aggression. This is the record of Joe Biden. This is the record of a...
I thought the record of Joe Biden was getting record numbers of arrests at the border, stopping record numbers of people from crossing the border.
Democrat control in Washington. You, the American people, understand this. They want to revive the can-do spirit.
Yeah, Agolf Twitler makes the point that I've been making frequently. Higher Education Opportunities Act gave Secretary of Education the ability to alter student debt in a time of national emergency. And Putin says that's right, the Department of Education holds the debt. They don't necessarily hold all federal student debt, but there's any loan that the Department of Education holds, any loan that is federally held, it costs exactly $0 to forgive that debt. $0, because we've already spent the money to acquire the debt. The debt is ours. It belongs to the federal government. Federal government be like, and it doesn't cost a single penny more.
That this country is founded on. Yet instead of trying to bring our country together to solve these challenges, President Biden has chosen to divide.
Yeah, President Biden has chosen to divide. No, it's y'all that divide. That's what they did all since Obama. Obama becomes president. The racists come out and complain about it. It's like, we have Obama. If we didn't have President Obama, we wouldn't be divided. Well, we're divided because of y'all. Y'all are the ones being divisive over the fact that we have a black president. And that poor young Sheldon kid looks like he's trying to hold in a pee. And then the other two are like rolling their eyes at each other like, you know, we might not be the most intelligent people at our school, but we're much smarter than this McCarthy fella.
Demean and disparage his fellow Americans. Why? Simply because they disagree with his policies.
No, and clearly he said tonight that this is a pre-buttal, so I don't know if he had an advanced copy of the speech or not, but no, he's not saying that he is criticizing them simply for disagreeing. It's because of the fact that the MAGA Republicans take it to the dangerous levels of threatening our democracy, of supporting insurrectionists, of supporting treasonous behavior, of making excuses for Donald Trump's mishandling of classified documents, which Donald Trump made a felony during his presidency.
That is not leadership. When the president speaks tonight...
Was leadership doing nothing while the maggot idiots attacked Congress on January 6th, putting your life at risk? I keep wanting to say Senator McCarthy, Minority Leader McCarthy.
At Independence Hall, the first lines out of his mouth should be to apologize for slandering tens of millions of Americans as fascists.
He said they were semi-fascists, not full-on fascists, but it's not slander if it's true.
President Biden wants to talk about the soul of the nation. Tonight, he will say democracy is at stake. And he will declare...
he did, because it is.
...that only Democrats hold the moral upper hand.
He actually did not say that only Democrats hold the moral upper hand. He basically said that anybody who's not a MAGA Republican, i.e. mainstream Republicans, independents, and Democrats, together can work together to fight the MAGA Republicans and the threat that they face to this country. But, subtleties aren't your strong point there, McCarthy.
What Joe Biden doesn't understand is that the soul of America is in the tens of millions of hardworking people, of loving families, of law-abiding citizens whom he vilified.
Law-abiding citizens. He's vilifying the people that attacked the Capitol and who are defending those people that attacked the Capitol. That's who he's vilifying. Those people are not law-abiding citizens. They attacked law enforcement. People are threatening the FBI. Those are not law-abiding citizens. Donald Trump made it a felony to mishandle classified documents, and he did so. That's not a law-abiding citizen.
For simply wanting a stronger, safer, and more prosperous country.
Dark Brandon, Egolf Twitler. Dark Brandon should publicly apologize for not actually calling them full-fledged fascists, then put on his Ray-Bans and exit stage left. Exactly.
The soul of America is not the ruling class in Washington. It is the law-abiding, tax-paying American citizen. The soul of America.
So not the billionaires who avoid taxes. Thanks. Good.
Is our determination to get up and go to work every day.
Smells like my son is making his broccoli, and my son puts like a crap ton of garlic in his broccoli, and that smell is coming through our vents. And it's not quite hungry yet, but I can definitely smell it. It smells good.
Provide for our families, to love our children, be involved in their education, and ensure that this nation and its people always come first. The soul of America.
I guarantee you, in Kevin McCarthy's marriage, he's probably the one that always comes first.
Is our children, who deserve to learn. And
hold on, that needed to be something else. Let me repeat that joke. I guarantee you that Kevin McCarthy in his marriage is the one that always comes first. Thank you.
An education system that teaches them skills to have a better life than we do today.
No, because Donald Trump loves the poorly educated. He wants the people who haven't graduated from high school.
But for the past 19...
Wait, where'd the guy in the white shirt go? Like, I wasn't paying attention and he just disappeared?
18 months, the Biden administration has been doing everything in its power to crush America's soul. They force families to struggle to make ends meet. They debase the national currency so that power is vacuumed out of the middle class and shipped to the bureaucrats in Washington and the day traders of Wall Street. And they see their values, their country, their beliefs trashed in school, censored online, criminalized by the federal bureaucracy. You know, Democrats often say that America is a racist nation. They are wrong. We are
We are founded on racism, and we have lots of racists currently in our country, and a lot of them are MAGA folks. I would say all racists in this country are likely MAGA folks.
A noble nation. We are a republic devoted, however imperfectly, to the truth that all are created equal.
Well, but you all don't treat people equally, like because you take away their voting powers.
We are the greatest country in the history of the world.
Despite the Republican Party.
Look, an honest look at America today would offer genuine examples of our great character. We should return to our nation's timeless truths and values. We should inspire us to defend America first, not blame America first. You know, ironically, Biden is choosing to speak at Independence Hall. He has chosen a location that exemplifies the better angels of our nature.
He must have had a pre-copy because, you know, or maybe he just knows that that's a line that Biden uses a lot.
It was at Independence Hall that Thomas Jefferson wrote of the self-evident truths we cherish. It was at Independence Hall that Washington, Madison, Hamilton, and others debated the social contract that we, the people, value and venerate. Our founding fathers transmitted us a message in Philadelphia 246 years ago. That legacy is our democracy. You know, Joe Biden often says our democracy is under threat. He's right, but not for the reason he thinks. Let's spend a moment and
wait, the guy with the white shirt is back again. It's like he keeps flashing in and out. I'm completely missing when he comes in and out of the screen.
Talk about the threats to American democracy. Joe Biden and Democrats in Congress sent $1 billion of hard-earned working taxpayer money, of stimulus checks, to violent criminals behind bars. And yes,
Is this the new attack? I mean, come on. Now, I wonder if those people who are behind bars, they got the money, if it actually went to, like, their families? Maybe? Or maybe it went to, you know, pay off their victims or whatever? I don't know. I don't know enough about that to comment on it, but it seems to be a very new attack.
They sent one to the Boston bomber. That is an assault on democracy. Joe Biden and Democrats support defunding the police, which led to a historic rise.
Is he repeating what he said like 20 minutes ago? I mean, didn't he already say this? Did the teleprompter like hiccup and go backwards in time, and now he's repeating the same thing over and over?
Rise in crime. That is an assault on democracy. Joe Biden and big tech colluded to silence your freedom of speech and shut down your voice on the largest communication platforms in the world.
No, they just said that there is a problem and we might want to take advantage or consider dealing with because of the intelligence threats, and each of the companies' social media, i.e. Twitter and Facebook, decided to handle it in different ways, in the ways that they thought it was the best to handle it. Facebook didn't silence it, it just kind of pushed it down in the ratings and the results.
That is an assault on democracy.
And I just read, Putin, yes, liberal, and he repeats all the same points, followed by that's an assault on democracy, and he literally just did that, as Putin said it.
Joe Biden and his Department of Justice labeled concerned parents that speak at school board meetings as domestic.
This is another lie of the Republican Party. The Justice Department did not say that they were going to go after parents speaking up at school board meetings. Most of the parents who speak up at the school board meetings are allowed to do so without being harassed by the federal government. It's only those people who make threats to school board members that are going to be investigated, because the Republican Party doesn't like law and order. The Republican Party wants to allow their private citizens to threaten government officials.
Domestic terrorists. That is an assault on democracy. Joe Biden has unilaterally rewritten the immigration laws of the United States.
Lie.
Defying Congress and the Constitution that binds us all. That is an assault on democracy. Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress are hiring an army of 87,000 new IRS agents.
Another lie. There is not going to be 87,000 IRS agents. There might be 87,000 hires because of the spending that was done. Some of them will be agents. Some of them will be IT folks. Some of them will be other workers for the IRS that will work to not only replace a retiring workforce and work to make sure that they can recruit those people to replace the ones that are retiring, but also bring back the IRS to levels from 2010, because in 2010 they cut the enforcement arm of the IRS because they were mad about, you know, some of the Tea Party groups getting investigated, and so they made it so that the IRS had less teeth, and billionaires, the number of billionaires and rich people or whatever that were audited were cut in half. So restoring it back to 2010 levels is not like a horrible thing. It's righting a wrong, because those people who are making billions of dollars and who need to have their taxes audited should have their taxes audited to make sure they're not getting away with the BS that they like to get away with their high-powered, fancy pants tax preparers. Now, and also, we need more people working for the IRS, because I filed my taxes by mail, in April, because of stupid H&R Block crap that I had to deal with, I filed them by mail, and I have been checking what's my refund status, and up until today when I checked, it was always coming back, we don't have any information. Now it's to the point, almost 5 months later, that it's oh, we're still processing your refund. So at least I know they have it. But they need more people working for the IRS, so we don't have the IRS processing refunds 6 months later.
More than the population of Scranton, Pennsylvania. To do what? To snoop around your bank account.
No, they're not snooping around your bank account. They basically just put reporting standards for people who are making money on Venmo and trying to circumvent the tax code. See, Elizabeth, just before Benghazi, they gutted a place that was attacked. Exactly. Like, you can look up Jason Chaffetz on YouTube talking about the Benghazi funding, and the person, I think it was CNN, the person was asking, well, didn't y'all vote against increased funding for our diplomatic outposts? And he was like, well, yeah, we did. We voted against increased funding for diplomatic outposts because you have to pick and choose where you're going to spend. I'm like, so you're admitting that it was y'all who denied the request by Hillary Clinton to increase funding to increase security at our diplomatic posts overseas. But yet they'll still try and blame Hillary Clinton for it, even though they denied the funding because they control the purse strings when they run Congress. And that's what you get when they run Congress. That's they say they blame the Democrats for their ineptitude, or not even their ineptitude sometimes. Sometimes they know full well what they're doing, but because they know they can get away with it because enough of this country will believe them when they blame the Democrats for their own activities. Why? Because Donald Trump, as he said, loves the poorly educated, and there's plenty of poorly educated here in this country that vote for the GOP.
It is what it is.
Thank you.
Venmo, your small businesses. That is an assault on democracy.
So according to Kevin McCarthy, businesses should be able to make money on Venmo and not have it count towards their bottom line. I mean,
Joe Biden's government has shielded his family and his administration from accountability.
There's no laptop.
Of abuses of power and foreign dealings of his son for personal gain. That is an assault on our democracy.
But, no problem when Melania used her position, Ivanka used her position in the government or Trump's position in government to make sure she got good deals and her items going through to China, right? No? Yeah, that's also true, Bill P. Venmo is what Matt Gaetz used to allegedly pay his teenage girlfriends, or his allegedly teenage girlfriends. So yeah, they don't want Venmo to be looked into, because then they could look into Venmo and be like, oh, this is how they're paying for their pedophilic activities, despite the fact that they like to call other people groomers. Because again, usually when a Republican is blaming somebody else for something, it's because the Republican is guilty of it.
Joe Biden and a politicized Department of Justice launched a raid on the home of his top political rival.
No, Donald Trump's illegally had violated the law. He had documents that he shouldn't have had. He was mishandling them. He was putting top secret documents in a place that was not secure, and according to the law that he signed himself, it's a felony.
Donald Trump. That is an assault on democracy.
So being tough on criminals is an assault on democracy. That's what Kevin McCarthy is saying right now. I love that Egolf. I have been calling Egolf Twitler. I have been calling Matt Gaetz Pizza Gates for a while now. Did you happen to get that from me, or did you get that from somebody else, or come up with it yourself, and we just happened to both come up with it?
Joe Biden is right.
Pizza Gates delivers across state lines in 17 years or less.
Democracy is on the ballot in November. And Joe Biden and the radical left in Washington are dismantling Americans' democracy before our very eyes.
Joe Biden is not part of the radical left.
There is nothing right about standing by while district attorneys release criminals into our streets, or permitting daily violence against innocent Americans? Does President Biden think it is compassionate when a 4-month-old infant and an 18-month-old toddler were left in the Arizona desert by smugglers?
It's not Biden's fault when that happens. But again, Joe Biden has stopped a record number of people from crossing the border. Therefore, he is not the one to blame. He is the one who actually is doing something about people crossing the border and dealing with the people and processing them properly. Unlike Trump.
Or how about when 51 migrants died after being abandoned in a semi-truck in the Texas heat? Is it morally
Isn't that Texas's fault for being so hot? Sorry.
right that our children were forced to stay home from school while politicians dined out? Or when our kids...
You know what? On here on Liberal Dan Radio, I was critical of Governor Newsom for going and dining out during when he said everybody else should be home. I said I called him, he made Hypocrite of the Week that week when that happened. Of course, the difference between Gavin Newsom and like a Donald Trump or a Kevin McCarthy is that Gavin Newsom came out and apologized and said what I did was wrong. Republicans will never do that. It is a cardinal sin for a Republican politician to admit that they're wrong.
Kids did go back to school. Does Joe Biden think our nation's values tell us that it's no longer the content of our character that counts, but rather
y'all don't have any character, so the content of it is null and void.
the color of our skin? When biological boys are allowed to compete,
You really going into the trans issue with this? Come on, bruh. Gender is much more complicated than what you're making it, and I have a whole rant. Let me just read my rant on trans folks in sports. Trans athletes. There is no evidence that trans athletes have any real advantage. However, a young trans woman who is an athlete, if a young trans woman who is an athlete would have any advantage competing at a high school level against cis athletes, odds are that your cis daughter is not going to miss out on some scholarship. The odds that it's going to happen are slim to none. Young boys are not going to want to pretend to be women just to get ahead. Toxic masculinity and transphobia make it hard enough for trans women to come out. You think a young cis man is going to want to deal with all that? Also, young men and women don't have set number of hormones. Are we then going to weed out cis women with high testosterone levels because it is unfair to others too? We can manufacture any number of things that might give folks an unfair advantage in getting sports scholarships. What about parents who have the time and money to get their kids special trainers? Isn't that unfair to the children whose parents who can't afford that? What about children with health issues that predispose them to being overweight or have other issues that would prevent them from being successful in athletic activities? Is that fair when they can't compete? It seems to me like we're cherry picking what's fair when it comes to school sports. Furthermore, one of the young women quoted in an article about this finished 8th and as such missed the event by 2 spots, but 5 other cis women finished better than she did. What was her excuse for not beating the other cis women? Had she beat those other cis women, she would have made it no problem. Maybe the issue is that people shouldn't have to be relying on athletics to further their education or succeed in life. Furthermore, studies have shown that for each person who accepts a trans person for who they are, that person is 50% less likely to commit suicide. So I think protecting the lives of young trans folk is much more important than the idea that little Sally might miss out on a college scholarship.
in girls' sports. Does President Biden think that is fair? When violent criminals get stimulus checks from Democrats' wasteful
He's back to the stimulus check. How many times have you mentioned this one?
spending, does President Biden think that's right or defensible? Is it fair that historic inflation is causing Americans to get second jobs, or go into credit card debt to pay for groceries, or to drive their daughter to get chemotherapy? Of course, it is not. It's cruel. And honest Americans know this. They deserve better than to be demoralized for speaking out about what they know to be true. President Biden isn't interested in the truths. All he wants to do is change the subject from the pain Americans are facing every day. But, Mr. President, I have news for you. Americans don't want to change the subject. They want to change the leadership in Washington.
The Republicans want to change the leadership in Washington by force.
Mr. President, you know why? Because the Democrats in Washington have no plan to make life better. No plan to stop inflation, only to increase it. No plan to secure the border and stop fentanyl from poisoning our children. No plan to reduce crime and restore law and order in our cities. No plan to put our children's futures first and give parents a voice. No plan to get the country back on track. The American people deserve a Congress that focuses on their needs. In November, our country faces a clear choice. It's a choice between two different philosophies and two different futures. This is a national referendum. A referendum on inflation, illegal immigration, indoctrination, and crime at home and humiliation abroad. A choice between soaring inflation and skyrocketing energy costs, or affordable rents and gas and groceries for you and your family. This is a choice between whether we have an open border or a secure border.
Seems like, again, we have a secure border when President Biden is stopping record levels of people from crossing it.
A choice between protecting criminals or protecting law-abiding Americans. Republicans have a plan for a new direction that will get our country back on track. Our plan is a commitment to America. If Republicans are given the opportunity and honor to
if America votes for the Republicans' plan, the Americans deserve to be committed.
Have the majority in the House, we will work day and night, hour after hour, for you, the people.
And by the people, he means me, because he's my little bitch.
We will work for an economy that is strong. We will work for a nation that is safe. We will
bullshit
work for a future that is built on freedom. And we will work for a government that is held accountable. We will fight to stop inflation.
Yeah, because the government's going to be held accountable. He's threatened to put Garland on testimony and threatened him with hearings if the Republicans regain the House, which should be considered obstruction of justice. McCarthy should be under investigation now for obstruction of justice.
Inflation and lower the cost of living. We will fight to lower the cost of gas. We will stop taxpayer dollars from
I don't believe you.
being wasted on failed programs. We will pass the Parents' Bill of Rights so parents have a say in their children's education.
That's all we need right there. That group of people behind him having a say in how the kids get educated. That will surely turn out well, wouldn't it? And then, of course, the parents could try and prevent the Diary of Anne Frank from being placed in the schools because we don't want people to learn about the Holocaust because it makes us look bad.
We will defend American sovereignty. We will conduct vigorous oversight.
Yeah, I keep missing when White Shirt comes in and leaves the screen. It's like he just shimmers in and out. It's like magic.
Check abuses of power and hold all wrongdoers accountable, including our Department of Justice.
All wrongdoers, so including the people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th and the people who mishandled top secret documents?
We will move the supply chain from China back to America. We will pass tough laws and legislation to make our communities safer. We will block any bill that lowers your standard of living that makes you and your family less safe and less free.
You know, what about bills that make our families more safe? Like, you know, making sure that we have background checks for all gun transactions and every time a gun transfers from one person or entity to another person or entity, giving a paper trail for that, so we can make sure that we know that the fact that, you know, when a crime is committed, who that gun is attached to and whether or not that person said that gun was stolen or not.
And less prosperous. And we will do everything in our power to pass legislation that raises your wages, increase your standard of living, grows the middle class, supports our police and law enforcement.
Law enforcement. What's law enforcement? Yes, that's it. Blue lives matter except for when they're arresting MAGA folks. They only back the blue when the blue is killing black people. When the blue killed Ashley Babbitt, terrorist Barbie, they don't back the blue. When the blue, you know, goes after Donald Trump for committing crimes, allegedly, because he had, you know, he's admitted to the crimes. They don't back the blue then. They only back the blue when the blue is taking out the black people.
Tames our bureaucracy and restores the citizens of this country to their rightful place.
To Republicans restoring their citizens to the rightful place, does he mean like women back in the kitchen too? Because that's what conservatives want?
We will restore the soul of America, the values of America, and the promise of America.
Now, when he says America, he really means the Confederate States of America? Satire!
Join us. Go to takethehouse.com. Let's
Take my house, please.
Deliver a new leadership that gets America back on track.
New leadership, so we're not going to have you as Speaker of the House if y'all take the House back? It's going to be new leadership? That's at least something.
Thank you, and God bless America.
Yeah, let's just scroll back real quick and see. No, that's not the guy again. I just want to see. We're going to scroll back. See. I want to see. See, there's one time when he moves.
He faces a clear choice. It's a choice between two different philosophies and two different futures.
I need to
This
move.
is a national referendum. A
I'm going over
referendum
here
on
now.
inflation, illegal immigration.
That's where he went that one time. He just
indoctrination,
went back
and
there. Then he stayed. Let's see. Where else did he do? Where else did he pop it? You see, he went to the same place again.
Says our democracy is under threat. He's right.
Maybe he's
not
flatulent.
for the reason he
Maybe he's
thinks.
like, I really need to fart, but I don't want my
Let's
fart to
spend
be
a
on
moment and
camera or
talk
for the
about the
people here to
threats
smell
to
it
American
because they might
democracy.
react to me. So I'm going to go walk away
Joe
from the
Biden,
camera
the Democrats
to make
in
sure that no
Congress
one can smell my farts.
Sent $1 billion of hard-earned working
Come on, where are you
taxpayer
moving?
money,
Come on, move.
of stimulus checks to violent criminals behind bars. And yes, they sent one to the Boston bomber.
We'll get to that in a
was an
second.
assault.
Wait.
Philadelphia 246 years ago. That legacy is.
There he is. He's coming back from there again. Let's see. Let's scroll some more. See when he pops back in and out.
And math
There he is
proficiency.
again.
It is no
Now
wonder.
he's walking back.
only
I think he just has
28%
gas. I think Home
of
Dude
Americans
has
have
gas.
trust
Or
in our
maybe
public
he's like
schools.
has adult diapers and he needs to do
And in a
something
giant
that no one
payoff
can
to
smell.
our
So he's going to keep
education
coming in the back of the
universities
screen
that
because
charge
he,
more but deliver less value.
he's flatulent.
Biden unilaterally bailed out high-paid.
Let's see. So there he is again. Oh, wait.
Income. What Biden has locked it away and raised the price of gas.
Oh, yeah, there he came
Fact.
back from that area.
Real
He is stealthy. I'll give him that because we never really noticed him except for when he left the screen. He just kept leaving and going, coming and going. I don't even remember where that part I wanted to replay was.
That we must change direction and walk.
Anyway, so let's just look at this thing real quick. Prisoners also received, let's see. Prisoners also received checks from both the pandemic relief bills then President Trump signed and Cotton voted for. Neither the bill Trump signed with Cotton support in March nor the bill Trump signed with Cotton support in December contained any language prohibiting prisoners from getting relief funding. The Trump-era Internal Revenue Service did try belatedly to prevent prisoners from getting money at the first bill, but tax law experts across the political spectrum said the IRS had no authority to do so, given the fact that the text of the law did not exclude prisoners. So that's why the prisoners were able to get any money. Now, there's no necessarily evidence that Tsarnaev or Dylan Roof got that money in and of itself. We probably wouldn't know that. However, there's the fact that, he's only complaining about the Democratic bill, and he's not complaining about the fact that the Republican bills allowed them to do that. So, anyway, it's about time for me to sign this off. If you want to, let's see. I'm sure Aaron will put it in. I'm about to go to Twitch in about, as long as it takes me to change my setup to connect over to Twitch, I'm heading over to nerdydan.com on Twitch. If you'd like to join me there, we can continue talking about what McCarthy said and what Biden said. I have no problem continuing the political talk. I'm just going to talk about it whilst gaming. So we could talk about the flatulent old guy as much as you want over there as well. Old fart man, or whoever it is. Anyway, the people love me. Thank you, Wes. I know. At least the people that show up to the thing. I'm not as popular as some folks like Hallis, but that's why we need to grow left. That's why we need to grow our farm team of podcasts, because by growing the farm team of podcasts, we will be able to have people like myself, like the host of the most nimbusios with the smooth sounds of the Percy podcast, with like Demonox, like Andrea, like Kenneth, get these shows up and get him more spread out there so that we have more voices out there tackling the truth, fighting the Republican lies, etc. So I'm going to do the same outro that I did as an intro. So let's go ahead and we're going to change back to the Grow Left thing. And the song that we played prior to this is called Nimbus. So, again, thank you all for watching. Come over to nerdydan.com over on Twitch in a few minutes.